dive into the shocking world of the child support system in our latest video, Unraveling the Child Support System, a Story of Injustice. This gripping true crime tale reveals the harrowing journey of a man who was falsely accused of fathering a child he had never met. The twist: the real father was his own brother, and the girl involved was underage at the time of her pregnancy. This shocking revelation leads to a series of events that sees our protagonist wrongfully arrested for statutory rape and forced into a nightmare of child support obligations. With no chance to defend himself, he spends over 3 years in Volusia County Jail, grappling with the devastating effects of a flawed child support system. After his release, he seeks retribution for the life that was stolen from him, culminating in a tragic conclusion. Join us as we dissect the complexities of child support laws, the impact of false accusations, and the dire consequences that can arise from a broken system. This is a must-watch for anyone interested in child support info, true crime stories, and the intricacies of law enforcement. Don't miss out on this eye-opening discussion. Child support is often seen as a necessary measure to ensure that children receive the financial support they need. However, it has a darker side that many people overlook. This issue is particularly severe in the African American community, where men are incarcerated at high rates for failing to pay child support. The story of Shantel Beasley and Terry Minor highlights the harsh realities of this system. Child support laws are designed to hold parents accountable for their children. But what happens when the system is manipulated? We will explore how a single name can destroy lives. The law requires that mothers seeking state assistance must provide the name of the child's father. Sometimes this leads to false accusations and devastating consequences. The story of Shantel Beasley, a young girl from Daytona Beach, Florida, serves as a grim example. By falsely accusing men of fathering her child, she sets off a chain of events that ruins lives and reveals the flaws in the system. This story is a vivid portrayal of how easily an innocent man can be accused and imprisoned. We will dive deep into the lives affected by these laws, focusing on the tragic tale of Shantel, Earl, and Terry Minor. We will see how a system meant to protect children can, in some cases, lead to injustice and tragedy. Shantel Beasley was not your typical 15-year-old girl. Growing up in Daytona Beach, Florida, she had a difficult home life. Her mother was morbidly obese and confined to a wheelchair, unable to provide the supervision and guidance Shantel needed. This lack of parental oversight allowed Shantel to engage in risky behaviors from a young age. Shantel was known for her wild lifestyle. She frequently hosted gatherings at her home, where she entertained both male and female friends. Her promiscuity was well known, and she didn't shy away from relationships with both boys and girls. This behavior set the stage for the tumultuous events that would follow. One of the older men who frequented Shantel's home was Earl Minor, a 25-year-old college student at Bethune-Cookman College. Earl had a troubling habit of seeking out young, impressionable girls. He often patrolled high school parking lots looking for his next conquest. Shantel was an easy target for Earl, and they soon began a sexual relationship. Earl's relationship with Shantel was exploitative. He knew the law and the risks involved, but continued to see her. Despite his attempts to cover his tracks, using condoms and warning Shantel about the consequences if they were caught. The relationship would soon lead to devastating repercussions for everyone involved. The relationship between Shantel Beasley and Earl Minor reached a critical juncture when Shantel discovered she was pregnant. She was only 15, and this revelation threw her life into chaos. Earl, upon hearing the news, immediately denied being the father. He refused to accept responsibility without proof. Earl's rejection left Shantel feeling isolated and desperate. She was already living a precarious life with little support from her disabled mother. The pregnancy added a new layer of complexity to her situation. After the baby was born, Shantel applied for state assistance. She received food stamps, WIC, and welfare, but this support was temporary. When Shantel's state assistance was abruptly cut off, she was left in a state of panic. She didn't understand why her benefits had stopped and sought answers from her caseworker. The caseworker explained that to continue receiving assistance, Shantel needed to provide the name of the child's father. This demand put Shantel in a difficult position. She had to think quickly to avoid losing her much-needed support. Without hesitation, Shantel began listing the names of boys and men she'd been intimate with, hoping that one of them would be identified as the father. Each man was served with papers to take a DNA test, and one by one, they were cleared of paternity. Shantel's list grew shorter, and her desperation increased as she faced the possibility of losing her benefits entirely. Eventually, Shantel ran out of names. Faced with no other options, she turned to Earl Minor, who had been adamant that he couldn't be the father. Earl pleaded with her not to give the state his name, fearing the legal repercussions. Despite his pleas, Shantel found herself backed into a corner. She needed to provide a name to continue receiving assistance, and time was running out. Shantel sought guidance from her caseworker, hoping there was a way around naming Earl Minor. The caseworker informed her that any man's name would suffice, as long as it kept her benefits flowing. This loophole gave Shantel a risky idea. She shared this information with Earl, who was equally desperate to avoid being implicated. Earl suggested using his brother Terry's name. Terry, a student, had no connection to Shantel. Shantel submitted Terry's name to the state. Terry was called out of his classroom by officers. He was bewildered, having never met Shantel. Despite his protest, he was arrested and taken to jail. Terry's arrest marked the beginning of his nightmare. He reached out to Earl, who pretended ignorance. Earl coldly told Terry he deserved it. Terry was left to fend for himself in a legal system that seemed designed to trap him. 3 years passed, and Terry Minor remained in jail, his life turned upside down by the false accusations. The back child support had ballooned to $30,000, a sum he had no hope of paying. In his desperation, Terry finally managed to contact his best friend from college. He explained the situation, pleading for help. His friend, horrified by Terry's ordeal, reached out to his brother, a lawyer in Florida. The lawyer, familiar with Florida's legal system, took up Terry's case. He swiftly petitioned the court for a DNA test on Shantel Beasley's child. The results confirmed what Terry had known all along. He was not the father. This revelation should have been a moment of relief, but for Terry, it was a bitter victory. He had lost 3 years of his life to a lie. Despite the DNA evidence, the court refused to hold Shantel accountable for her false accusations. They argued that there was no way to prove she had knowingly lied. This legal loophole left Terry feeling betrayed by a system meant to deliver justice. His wrongful imprisonment had caused profound trauma, and he struggled to adjust to life outside of jail. Filled with rage and a desire for retribution, Terry decided to take matters into his own hands. He acquired a gun and tracked down Shantel, intent on confronting her. When he found her, he demanded an explanation for her actions. Shantel, terrified, revealed that it had all been Earl's idea. This revelation pushed Terry over the edge. In a moment of uncontrollable fury, Terry shot and killed Shantel. Realizing the gravity of his actions, he knew he had sealed his fate. With nothing left to lose, Terry turned his sights on his brother Earl. He found Earl's apartment, kicked in the door, and confronted him. Earl, realizing his treachery had been exposed, begged for mercy. But Terry, consumed by his thirst for justice, shot Earl multiple times. The police arrived quickly, responding to reports of gunfire. They found Terry standing over Earl's body, weapon in hand. Without warning, the officers opened fire, killing Terry instantly. The tragic chain of events was finally over, leaving behind a trail of ruined lives and shattered families.